Hi, this is Christopher Smith. I'm publisher of the American Cannabis Report on PCM-TV. My guest today is Rico Lamitte. He's the founder of Canavision. A couple things I'd love to talk about, Rico. So again, you and I met on the State of Cannabis News Hour, founded by the fabulous Susan Soares. You know, give her props for sure for getting us all together. But I always think, especially on a daily basis, that you're really one of the sort of the fulcrums of the whole thing. And whole thing sort of balances on the way that you start and the way that you manage, and the stories that you bring, and the experience and passion and point of view that you bring. So I'm really curious to hear, because this is a daily show, or weekday show, of course. I think they've done over 2,000 news stories about cannabis in less than a year. I mean, it's really a pretty profound contribution, I think, to the industry. And I'm really curious about how you're thinking about it going forward, and what's your vision, and how do you see this working into the great sort of mix of all the media, and what are you seeing as State of Cannabis?
Man, State of Cannabis is awesome opportunity for me, and it came right on time. And it's kind of hard for me to explain. I'm a visionary myself, and I've gotten better at communicating my vision, like over the years. Thanks to Mila Diamond, she's actually my life coach now, but she's also my speech coach with both TED Talks. And when I see something, I visualize something like going out like long term, I try to align with the right people who are either doing something similar or complementary to what I'm doing. And as we were saying earlier, when I built CaniVision, I had no idea it was going to blow up as quickly as it did. And as a decentralized media broadcast organization, as I was with CaniVision when we started, it was all about covering the people's story from the people's point of view, the voices that are covered by mass media. And I had no idea like how different things were in every region of the US. And the stories were very, very similar, how people were getting screwed over at the bottom from the people at the top. But they're so different from region to region. I didn't have like all of the political contacts. I didn't have a lot of the dark cannabis money contacts. But I knew who the players were. I knew everybody like on the business end of thing. I knew everybody on the wellness side of the heavy hitters, at least the wellness side of the industry. And I knew a lot of people on the lifestyle side. And conversely, I knew a ton of trappers, like being out here in Los Angeles for as long as I have been. So I wanted to build something to connect all of them. What I didn't understand was from a political standpoint was how everything was stitched together on the back end there. And when I found out one of my mentors, who's a Virgil Grant, right? He's one of my first mentors in the cannabis industry.
Sure.
Got social equity.
Legend, yeah.
Helped write Measure M from behind from a prison cell, right? And,
amazing. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if it wasn't for him, right? It's a whole nother story. But I found out that he was struggling to keep his licenses, and I dug a little deeper and found out out of the almost 200 licenses in pre-ICO licenses here in Los Angeles, only 3 Black owners of the original pre-ICO owners were left. Only 2 Mexican owners were left.
Wow. And Virgil?
Yes, and everybody in the broad scale of things is talking about, oh yeah, revenues through the roof. Cannabis is an essential business now. It's going crazy. Everybody's making money. Like, nah, this is really, really fucked up. What's going on? Like, what are we going to do about this? And so that's when I brought my. I'm used to being in front of the camera. I wasn't so used to being behind the camera, but like some people's stories need to be heard. So I bought a camera, a second camera, my first Sony camera, and then I used my iPhone, and I just went out, bought a cheap ass microphone, and started interviewing people, and I just started seeing these patterns. But I didn't know how to like dig deep into the political space. I'm not very smooth when it comes to talking in political circles and stuff like that. And Susan just came around at the right time. Like literally, Nicole reached out to me. I already knew Nicole for years now. She reached out to me and said, I'm doing this thing. on Clubhouse. If you aren't on the app yet, I was like, yeah, I've been on the app. I've been listening to Jay-Z and shit, talking like people, some cool
Yeah.
people out there. It's a great time waster. And I wrapped with Susan. I've been to a couple of her in-person events, and I was pretty impressed. And she told me what they're doing. I'm like, yeah, I really want to focus on projecting my image, less of being on the business side and more of being a new father in the cannabis industry, because nobody's talking about responsible parenting. And from a patriarchal standpoint,
Sure.
in the industry, you hear like, "Can a mom this? Can a mom that?" But you don't hear anything about the dads out there. So I
That's right.
just launched my Dope Dads podcast that I was running, and it's just perfect time. I said that's the kind of like angle I want to take, and I want to also take the Canavision angle and counter these big stories that everybody thinks are great news, and just be like follow the fucking money.
Yeah.
Follow the money, and those smiles are going to be turned upside down really quickly. And the message I just want to get out to everybody is just being real about what's going on. You don't have to
Yeah.
be super emotional about it. You just got to understand, as cannabis enthusiasts, as everyday citizens, everybody up to even multimillionaires, like you can only control the controllable. When you get up to that 100 million, if I say 50 to 100 million and up, you start to have a lot more political clout, and you can start to control things top down. But everybody else, we're all pawns in that game. And
Yeah.
I just want everybody to recognize that you need to be aware of the big picture, but maintain control of what is controllable, and that's your own nucleus, your own neighborhood, your own family, your own household. Those are things that you can control.
Yeah.
Can't get overly happy or overly upset of what is going on in the big picture. You just need to be aware, and you need to adjust accordingly. So I try to be that, maintain that voice of neutrality, which is why I entertain Jason and his crazy right-wing ramblings.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Did you say that you are working on your neutrality? Is that where you think you are? I don't think that's where you are at all. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is that I mean that you are so heart forward. You are so soul forward, and so I mean your emotion is right on the surface, right on the sleeve, whatever. That you tell the true story, but you don't hold back, and that's what makes your delivery so powerful, because you don't hold back.
I appreciate
People know what you're feeling.
Appreciate it. I mean my neutrality in a traditional political spectrum. I personally, I really don't believe in political parties and a dual party system.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
There is no dual party system when it comes to American thoughts and feelings and emotions. I think a great analogy, I heard from Russian dissidents.
Whether
Go to any drugstore in America, you have 13, 14 options when you're buying toothpaste. Like, how come when you're electing an official, you only have two choices? Is America binary across the board? Like, no, we are literally a melting pot of cultures. And then when you're forced to be placed in one bucket or the other, you're forced to choose sides. And I reject that notion. And I just don't believe in political parties. I believe in individual freedom of thought, freedom of opinion, and I'm a strong supporter of people admitting when they're wrong. Like I'll bring up Jason back like a million times. Like he never likes to say he's wrong. Like I'm all for that, and I tell people straight up, yeah, like I'm a father. I'm a young father. Own a couple of businesses. I hate taxes, especially here in California. I'm pro gun rights. I'm from Virginia originally. I think people should be able to, pack heat, and especially as a black man in America. Like, I'm not anti-cop, but I understand the rhetoric and I understand the narrative that they're coming from. I just understand like a lot of stuff is not fair when it comes to being a citizen in America, and then you drop it down a notch for being a black man in America, drop it down even further being a black woman in America, and I think these things need to be fleshed out. And unless you're willing to admit when you're wrong, like nobody is going to process before they progress, right? And I'm a
Yeah.
firm believer in moving forward. And you have to be able to look back and like, oh yeah, I messed up when I said that. I apologize. Like,
How much would you, let me ask you a question. How much would you give to hear Gavin Newsom, governor of California, say, when we launched the tax structure in California, we messed it up. We screwed it up, because now what they're trying to do is they're saying, we're willing to eliminate the grower tax, but we're going to have to put it over on the consumer side. We're going to have to put it on the excise tax because we can't afford to get rid of those revenues. How much would you give to hear Gavin Newsom say, mistakes were made, we need to start from scratch, and we need to rationalize the tax structure in this business, otherwise it's going to die?
do you believe Gavin Newsom is a Democrat?
I do not. I do not. I think he's a fence sitter on whatever fence you give him.
Yes, yes, he's a politician. He's going to see what the polls say, whatever internal
That's right.
information says that he should do, and he'll follow suit. I don't think he'll outwardly or openly apologize or say those words completely.
Right.
I think, Cat Packer here in Los Angeles, the cannabis czar of Los Angeles. One of my big moments of the pandemic was when I interviewed her for the Emerge conference, and
Okay.
I was very. I've been a friend with Cat for 5 years now. I've known her for a while. We actually marched. We were activists together before it went back when she was at DPA, and she's a friend of mine. Let's put it that way. She's messed up a lot of things. She was a placeholder for everybody. She was a scapegoat.
I think she got screwed. I
Yeah.
think she got stuck there as she checked all the boxes, right? She's African American, she's a woman, she's all these things. She checked up, and they set her up to fail. I looked at her background and her educational back. Isn't she a PhD or something? She's I think a lawyer. I mean, she's one of the most educated people anywhere, right?
She hasn't passed the bar, but yeah,
Okay.
she checked, like just like you said, she checks every box.
Checks all the boxes.
Black woman, queer. She's an activist, like all of that, and she's the perfect scapegoat for all of them.
Absolutely.
But
They set her up to fail.
Yes, she was dealt a bad hand from the beginning.
Yep.
I was very, very, very surprised, and I was very pleasantly surprised because I asked her a question I just knew that she wasn't going to answer, and she answered it straight up. I asked her about social equity. I was like, social equity, we're like 2 years in, we're 3 years now. 2 years in, folks still don't have their licenses. People are going broke. I'm not going to place blame squarely upon you, but if you can go back and hypothetically change anything about how the rollout was, what would you do? And she straight up said, like, she thinks a mistake of the program was making people secure properties before they got licensed.
That's right.
It was the first time she ever admitted that. And it opened up the city and the state to so many lawsuits. That's what
it was an anchor. Hey, Rico, would you do me a favor? Would you do me a favor again? Tell me again that story. This is the friend of yours who had money that she had saved. Tell me. I mean, this is a classic example of exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yes. So my CaniVision team, my original CaniVision team, we were LA heavy out here until I realized that I could automate a lot of stuff. And I realized that I'm no longer good at managing people.
Oh, well.
Manager, I expect everybody to be a hustler like I am, and it just doesn't work that way. But I don't want to use her. I don't want to use her full name because I don't have permission right now. But her name, she's a pseudonym. Whatever, Sarah.
Her name is Sarah today. Sarah did, yes.
Sarah was in corporate America. She made a lot of great money, and she found out that she qualified for social equity. She left corporate America, over $200,000 in the bank, liquid cash, and it's like, yeah, we're going to do this great, have great ideas, great partners, all this and that. The rules came out so that she had to secure a place. She did that. She paid nearly $20,000 a month in rent. 2 years passed, like her and her partner are broke, like straight up. Licenses nowhere in sight. Legal fees up the ass. and she ended up going homeless. And she was,
and this, by the way, the rent that she was paying was for a building that couldn't be used because she couldn't get the license yet, because the process was so locked up that she was required to hold the property, but also blocked out of having a business. So she couldn't even go on the gray market side, even if she wanted to.
Exactly. So, and that really opened my eyes. It was upsetting. She ended up having to leave our team because I couldn't pay her more than what I was. I had already blown through my PPP loan. I had already paid back all the sponsors I had for my last business. I just didn't have any more money. I was paying people on my staff a stipend. Everybody on my team was getting paid, and I wasn't making any money. We were barely afloat, and I couldn't support the person that I knew, had a personal relationship with, that I knew needed it most. And it's
so heartbreaking.
Yeah, it just absolutely sucked, and I couldn't even. It is very, very heartbreaking. You know, like her mom is a professor at a very prestigious university, and her mom like advised her against going in the cannabis industry. It's hurt so many of our communities, blah 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 blah. And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna prove them wrong. Like, there's a great opportunity to build generational wealth, and so on and so on and so on." And like, just no, it's not.
It's wiped out.
And the people, like, big shout out to my home, Tika Keith out here in Gorilla RX. And Whitney Beatty. I've been on the front lines with them for over 5 years, and they squeaked through. But it's so few people that made it through. When we started talking about social equity, it was like 600, 700 people at every city hall meeting at the Civic Center, and now you have like less than 15. Like, you either go back to the streets, you get out of the industry altogether, or you try to find a job. It's not anything positive coming for people of color in the industry unless you're working for a MSO, and that's just the way it is. So, I didn't have this shirt. I wanted to wear the shirt today. From my good friend Kristen Yoder. She owns a company, Cynical Stoner, and one of her shirts says, I think it's something to the tune of like fuck corporate cannabis. And I'm getting mine. Yeah, because we actually have a clothing company too. I'm getting mine actually customized and put an asterisk on it, and like, unless you're black.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're black and brown, because it's the only way that we can survive in this industry. So.
Yeah, I'd like to talk just a little bit about. I mean, the stories from the LA market and from the markets you're talking about people just literally getting their life savings just bled away from them little by little by little, and from a position of strength and money in the bank, now she's at a point of desperation. I mean, it's just really, really sad, and it's just not what we're supposed to be about here. One of the things I think that, and I just don't know how if it's working really, but one of the things that and to back up what you were saying before about political parties, I think cannabis is the thing that actually bridges all of those things, right? Because I was speaking with our friend Gretchen Gailey the other day, for example, and my question to her was, how is it that your conservative values line up with cannabis values? And how come you're the only one, by the way, but it comes out about it, but like, and clearly, the bridges are there, right? It transcends political party, gender, ethnicity, geography, all of it, all of the differences where people are playing like my team versus your team. Cannabis bridges all those things.
Yes.
Or it's supposed to. I mean, it could. I think that's why you and I are doing what we do, to try and get these stories out there and to get the humanity out there.
It's crazy you say that. That's the exact reason why I started CaniVision. I see, crazy thing for me to ever do. The quote Ronnie Reagan, Mr. Triple Six himself.
I tell you.
But cannabis is a three-legged stool. Straight up. Business, wellness, and lifestyle. Right.
Okay. Right.
People are realizing, later in the game than they should have, is you need all three of those for this thing to work, period. You're never going to have another industry in our lifetimes, at least, as powerful as it is, completely coming from the underground, from the streets.
Yes.
It was, prohibition goes back into like racism, straight up. But over 100 years of prohibition there, and you have something that's lasted only because it was illegal, because grandmas, nimas, abuelas, whatever, they had their secret stash of medicine,
Yep.
right? Whether you're black, white, brown, doesn't matter. You have old white ladies, old white men up in the mountains in Humboldt that've been doing this. We've known that the shit's cured cancer for fucking decades, for generations. We've known it's been here all. And then you have all of this, and you have a couple of people from the scientific community start to realize, oh, this isn't just old wives' tale. And then you have the U.S. government getting their patents on their paws on this shit. Like, oh yes, it really is something to this. And then you have capitalism coming right behind that. Oh, we might have a chance to do something here. And they want to forget that this shit came from the streets, man. And you have to honor that, and you have to get people out of jail that you have treated so poorly. Getting to this point, and you're reaping the rewards of their labor.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, it's even, of course, we've talked about this before on state of cannabis and everything. Just recent discoveries is that cannabis was the first crop that was cultivated by humans, starting in China 12,000 years ago. And when I brought that story, woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers were afoot at that time. Like, that's how long ago cannabis and humans came together.
Dinosaurs were
what's that?
Dinosaurs were smoking joints.
Dinosaurs were smoking joints. Dinosaurs, that's how they got so big.
The original land races.
That's it. But so it's been part of people's lives, and intrinsic in people's lives and in civilization's development for 12,000 years. And all of a sudden, it became illegal. Right. All of a sudden, the hammer came down, completely unnatural experience.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, like where we are right now, I'm trying not to dwell too much on the negative past.
Yes.
Acknowledge that stuff and try to build on it going forward. And this is why I always bring up those points when I talk to Gretchen, when I talk to Jason. Like,
right.
However, like, yes, this is true. That's where we are right now. However, you can't leave these people behind. Period. You cannot do that, because they're a revolt. And that's why and Gretchen's talked about, reparations is non-stars. Like, fuck you. Like, if we're not getting social equity is a buzzword created by H.G. Fredrickson, a white man in Idaho in 1968. It's a buzzword.
Really? Okay.
There's no true definition of it, and that's why it'll never be, you can mark my words right here, it'll never be satisfactory in any community as to what it truly means. Period. And in California, spoiler alert, it's illegal. There's no affirmative action in the state of California. It means you can't license people. You can't give people license. You can't give people an up on business practices because of the color of their skin. So it's so vague as to what it is. It's DOA. And so, like, for everybody thinking like, oh yeah, like cannabis industry is the closest we're going to get to reparations, bullshit. We need to get reparations. If you want to make peace with people of color, with the communities that you've done wrong, you're absolutely acknowledging what's going on now, because we have the data, we have the facts, we have all the proof that it was a hit on these Black communities. Shout out to everybody from Anslinger to the Tricky Dick, the secret tapes, like all that stuff. We have the proof that this was a hit on our communities. Give us the money. Like, you're not going to do it through cannabis. Obviously, you keep on kicking the can down the road, and now it's the Republicans' narrative that's leading the race now. Like, we're not going to get that. Give us our money. You don't want to give us this. You don't want to acknowledge what happened, whatever. The stuff that we do have you on record for screwing our communities over, you owe us. Give us the money and let us build our businesses. That's it. Leave us the fuck alone. Like, we don't want, you want us to stop complaining about stuff. Give us money and let us do our own thing. Let us get out of your system. It doesn't work for us. It's been the entire country has been built off the backs of dead people of color. Period. Everything in this country has been. And if you guys are going to acknowledge that, which you're starting to, like shout out to CRT, if you're going to acknowledge that, awesome. We're not going to revolt. We're not going to kill off a bunch of white people. We just want money to survive and to thrive in our own communities. We don't want our ideas to be taken, to be stolen. Everything from in the cannabis industry to mainstream media to all of that. Pay us. We're a collaborative people, and that's something that is really, really hard to get through to a lot of quote unquote Republicans. I say quote unquote Republicans because they're not Republicans. They don't adhere to the core values of the original Republican Party. They're just opportunists, a lot of them. And where I stand on that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I say opportunists as it's just a word, right? Like, who cares? Like, to me, if you're all about opportunity and you don't give a shit about people's feelings and everything, awesome. I put you in that category. I don't have any animosity towards you or anything, but don't bullshit me. Don't waste my time telling me you're going to give me representation, telling me you're going to give me social equity, telling me you're going to help my community when you don't even listen to what I have to say. Stay in your fucking lane. Allow me to do my part, connect with my community, generate these dollars. I need you to help me run these businesses. I need you to help me stay in contact with politicians. That's your lane. That's what you love doing. Stay in your fucking lane. We help each other. I help generate money over here, give you your cut so you can keep us on the up and up. You play your political games over there because we don't want to do that in your system. And then we all need help from the wellness community because cannabis is medicine. We need to make sure we take care of the holistic healers in this as well, because whether you have a PhD, whether you are a well-known, world-renowned scientist, doctor, or whatever, all of your research, all of your ideas to start this scientific stuff came from somebody's old grandmother, grandfather doing some crazy shit in the mountains. You need to take care of those people. Make sure their ideas are fleshed out and make sure they're taken care of to thrive in a capitalist society. Because if not, like, we're going to stay underground. We're going to be fine. You know, is it 80-20 ratio? Like 80% of the cannabis money thriving in these in these California streets is illegal. And it's going to continue to be illegal because they don't get it. And I'm going to keep on beating that drum. I'm going to keep on, showing love to my people on the underground because I know that the system is not fair. And I'm going to continue saying that too. I'm going to shut up in a second. I'll just finish this thought. From today on City Cannabis News Hour, we were talking about that the guy who smoked a blunt and as he left Dianne Feinstein's office, right? Like in any other situation, right? When you're employed by somebody, like I would totally be against that, right? But Dianne Feinstein, like she's done like nothing for the industry. She's done a bunch of broken promises, and she's a career politician. Her and a few other people. I don't want to name everybody's name because I'm still trying to get some interviews with them. But like they're just in politics to be in politics. They're career politicians. They say whatever. They do whatever. They make money off of the industries that they are trying to get laws passed for, and they do nothing for their constituencies. So what that gentleman did, and if you want to know a little clues to my political leanings, tear the shit down, dude. Do shit like that. Make a fool out of these people who are making a fool out of our communities. Like they deserve it. Like anybody in the private sector, if you're doing that, you're just collecting a check and you're ruining other people's like businesses. Like, come on, man. Like, you really got to do that. I'll laugh at it, but I really don't think that that's the right thing to do. In that situation, I'm like, she deserves it. And so many more of our politicians deserve stuff like that to be done to them because you're lying and you're hurting the people that vote for you. So, yeah, I'm a fan of just dismantling the system as it is. I know it's not going to happen anytime soon, minus some kind of catastrophic effect. That might happen, Trump is running for president again. Some kind of catastrophic event. But I'm all about dismantling the system. I believe in like anything like ranked choice voting. Um, we need to have more choices, and those choices need to be more in line with the constituencies of all of our politicians. We don't have that right now, and it's not fair. It's not a black or white thing. It's just like the black and white thing is more visible because media paints it that way. It's really a battle between the haves and have-nots, and we're unfairly pitted against each other as black and white citizens of this country.
You mind if I sort of change just change the trajectory just a little bit? But it's on the same draft really, which is we talked a little bit about Canavision, your company. So I want to make sure that I give you plenty of time to talk about what Canavision, what it was founded for, what it's doing now, and how you're helping to elevate companies and people seeking opportunity, not the bigs necessarily, although of course you wouldn't kick them out of bed, but obviously we're trying to spread the opportunity. So I'd love for you to hear, I'd love to hear from you about Canavision and what you're doing.
Yes, so Canavision, decentralized media broadcast organization. We are all about, we believe we are one network, many voices. As we were saying earlier, cannabis, the plant, brings together people from all walks of life. Right. I always say this is the cipher of life, man. Everybody gets a hit in the cipher of life.
That's great.
Get a big ass drag off of this joint, right? No matter where you came from, and it's part of my personal story too, because I grew up in Virginia. My stepfather was like really, really messed up individual. I'm from the Michelle Alexander School of Thought, so I cannot be a racist. I can't be a racist because I'm black. Racism comes from a position of power, but I can be a bigot. Two different things. Shout out to
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I was a bigot. I didn't really hang out with white people. Didn't hang out with brown people. I was a homophobe. Coming from where I came from, and that was accepted. My stepfather just drilled these ideas into my head, but I knew he was a messed up individual. And it wasn't until I got into college and I actually did step into the cipher of life. My first serious girlfriend in college, one of her best friends was a gay dude, John. And first time I ever talked to like an outwardly gay person, and it wasn't like me bashing on them, like sadly, right? And I'm like, we're just smoking a bowl, right? And I'm like, you're not that bad of a person. You're not trying to trying to rape me or anything like that. Like these are things that I was taught.
Right, of course. Yeah. And you were a big jock too, right? You're a big football player as well. So like you had a lot of the macho, stuff drilled into you all the way from everybody, all sides.
Yeah. And I ended up finding out later on in life, like my first roommate in college was gay too. Like he was on a football team, all Big Ten, like all fucking everything. Right?
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Like these people are around us, and I just wasn't taught that. I wasn't taught that growing up in a military family, growing up in the South. I just wasn't sensitive to that kind of stuff. I was like, this is the way things should be. This is the way things are not supposed to be. These people are evil. These people are sinners. Like they're never going to get forward in life, and if you do the same thing, you're going to hell. And I believed that mess, and it wasn't until cannabis opened my horizons. I was like, yo, who got the weed? Okay, this gay white guy has the weed. It's cold as fuck outside. I'm not going out looking for more weed in Chicago. I'm gonna smoke this white dude's weed, and we're gonna have some good conversation. I ended up being really, really good friends with gay people, with brown people, with white people. And if it wasn't for cannabis, I never would have opened up my social horizons.
And Bon Jovi music. I'm Bon Jovi too, right? I heard about that.
Germany.
I got you.
Bon Jovi.
Yeah. We're living on a prayer. I know. But cannabis is the bridge though. And I mean, there you are right there, right? Cannabis opens the conversation, and then all of a sudden you realize we're just a couple of guys. That's it.
Right. That's it. It comes from the earth, right? It is God. If you believe in God, that is God's gift to all of us. It is medicine, it is nutrition, it is
Yep.
relaxation, it is anti-anxiety, antimicrobial, like everything. The hemp hoodie that I have on right now, one of my companies, this is made of weed.
Amazing. Really? Okay.
Yes.
I want one. I want
Yes.
one.
I gotta get you one. Make sure you text me or Slack message me your size and everything. We have some new
We'll
stuff.
do. We'll do. Absolutely. Excellent.
Susan has one, damn it, and she doesn't even fucking wear it. Like one of her daughters like took hers and she wants another one. It brings everybody together, and that's what Canavision was all about in the beginning, like letting people tell their stories. If you are in Detroit, like one of my correspondents, Chris Jackson, he's the NCIA chair. He's out of
Okay.
Pontiac, Michigan. He and his partner Tatiana, they're two of my correspondents out of Michigan, right?
Right.
I can't tell their story, right? I can tell their story from afar, from whatever I read in news stories. I can call up some people that I know on the street and like hear what they're talking about, but it makes no sense for me to tell other people's stories when we have the technology now to allow people to tell their stories from their point of view. And I'm always inviting people from the opposite end of the spectrum, like, oh, this is what this person says from the industry.
Right.
What's going on? What's your take on this? Like,
Right.
people deserve to have that voice, and we don't need to be sticking to what the Bilderberg group says that we should be sticking to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I really share your point of view on telling the story under the story. I mean, the one that I was going to tell yesterday, I got bumped at the end because there was a whole lot of chatter going on, and I didn't make it. Huh?
That's some bullshit.
Because some bullshit happened. Anyway, no, but it didn't matter. But I posted the story anyway. But my story was about there's a family in Scotland, and the headline of the stories. What's that?
Edinburgh.
The Edinburgh story, yeah. So the headline said that the family was overjoyed because something had happened in the cannabis business. Complete bullshit, right? Because they were not overjoyed at all. Only 3 patients have been approved for cannabis medicine in the UK, and the program has been live for 3 years, and only 3 people have been approved. That's it. And this family is not one of them, and they have no joy whatsoever. They're not approved. So their National Health Service is not paying for their medicine. They're paying almost $2,000 a month out of pocket to keep their kid alive. And the health service is like, oh, we just can't, right? So going beneath the headline and really understanding the story, I think, is just what, both you and I are really after that. What's really going on here? It's really, really important.
This kind of stories it really break my heart.
Yeah.
And even more so because, shout out to Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, man.
Drowning out people's stories as well. So you have the most powerful platforms. He's not trying to be billed as a media company or as a
right.
As a utility, right? Like, but
he's playing it both ways, don't you think? I mean, look, like Tumblr just 6 months ago came out with a new policy that said we are going to take cannabis businesses, and everyone's like, how can you do that? You're social media. How can you do that? And they said, well, here's how social media works, kids, which is we're not like a broadcast company where we throw it out there and everybody gets it. That's not how we work. How we work is we want to target somebody, we target them. You want to find the person in San Francisco who's walking into the mall on 4th Avenue and you want to hit him with an ad for sneakers, we got it. That's how social media works. Therefore, if cannabis is not legal in Idaho, we block Idaho. But if it's legal in California, we allow it in California. And then if it's illegal for under 21, we block that. But everyone else can get cannabis ads because that's how social media really works. So Zuckerberg's full of shit.
Yep.
He's playing the game. He's playing us both ways, right? We have no control. Bullshit. You have total control.
Yeah, and the problem is where we are in society right now is we're just so programmed and to have things given to us easily.
Yep.
It's inconvenient. I forget the name of that documentary. It came on Netflix. one of the original guys over at Google and the Gmail team. It's like it wasn't Inconvenient Truth. That's Al Gore.
Something like that,
like,
though.
It's Social Experiment, I think it was called, like something like that.
Oh yeah, that may be right.
And we join these platforms because it's free. When you're joining something that's free, you are the product. Period.
That's the deal, right? Isn't it like the old thing? Like if you're in a room and you know there's a game going on, but you don't know who the mark is, you're the mark, right? That's the game, right? Yes. If you can't figure out who's the mark, it's you.
Yes, and that is the problem. Like we are so, in America especially, but the world overall, but in America so much, we are so conditioned to having things quick, easy, cheap. We don't want to work for things anymore. So we just like, oh yeah, that's not allowed. I'm just gonna let it fly. And we're not taking our dollars elsewhere, not building our own things. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to get a lot of, specifically people of color on. I have a couple of projects on right now. I'm past the point, like you said earlier, I'm past the point where I'm crying about stuff anymore. I'm past the point where I'm getting, angry at the system because that really doesn't do anything. Like, you can build new systems. If these people don't want to do what we have on our agenda, but they want to capitalize off of our ideas, fuck them. Get off of their platform.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what I did. And I'll point thumbs on this too. I'm a big thumb pointer, not finger pointer.
Okay.
It took a cancer scare for me to leave corporate finance.
Right.
I hated everything about that job. I'm not everybody like the Rico that you see like every day, you hear every day. That's me. That's the real me. For 10 years of my life, I made a lot of money biting my tongue. I hate it. Like every time I talk to my friends back from college and everything, like, oh Rico, you're fucking balling. Like, what are you doing now? Like, I'm in corporate finance. Like, corporate finance? What the fuck?
Right.
It just joke like to everybody that I was in corporate finance. I was doing really, really well. Like, I was in a very high position at a very, very prestigious firm, like making good money, bringing billions of dollars for my company, and I just bit my tongue all the time. I hated it. My marriage was on the rocks. I was very overweight, and I wanted to quit. And I kept on trying to quit. And a little fucked up joke that I always had to tell my friends. I'm like, the best job security for a black man in corporate America is in corporate finance because there's only one of us in every office, and they can't fire us.
Yeah, if you get the job, you know what I think. You talked before about karma. It's almost like the universe had a plan for you, right? The plan was not to be doing that. The universe had a plan, and you said you were biting your tongue all the time, and then you ended up getting cancer right there, there, because you were biting your tongue so much that's where it showed up, right? I mean, it seems to me. I know that's a little California, there's a little airy-fairy way to look at it, but you know.
I just got chills with you saying that, man, because I'd never even thought about that, man, and like,
isn't that crazy?
Get me fucking emotional.
Oh no, listen, when I was reading your story, I have to tell this to you. When I was reading your story, because I just in trying to make sure I asked questions that were relevant to what your actual experience was. I hadn't known about that. As a matter of fact, I hadn't known that you had been through all that. I knew about your background from Virginia. I knew about that. I knew about football. I knew about that. I knew about those sorts of things. But it's pretty amazing.
You're spot on. The reason why I'm like, I don't really tell people like the full story, right? So
you don't have to.
No, it's all good, man. Because I like to talk about shit, right? I almost choked on my tongue and died. Dead serious.
What's that?
I almost choked on the back of my fucking tongue.
Seriously.
Dead serious.
Okay.
Like in the back, right? And I'm just like, Mr. Macho Man, like, oh, it's like nothing. I'll go to urgent care like later on or something.
Yeah.
I'll sleep on it, but I was like choking on my uvula, dude.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And I woke up. It was like really bad. I'm like, okay, I'm going. My wife was going to work. Our condo was flooded, so we were actually in a rental a townhome in Torrance, and she's going downstairs, and she's almost out the door, and I'm like, I could not fucking breathe, bro. Like it was like the whole thing was like swollen. I started banging on the fucking floor. And she's going out, and she like comes back, and she like forces water down my fucking throat. It like takes me in, and like
Wow.
jazz, and they fucking performed on me. And like that's how I found out.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So,
well, man, but I mean this sincerely, Rico. There's no question that there was a plan for you. There's no question that all of that, I mean, literally going to on the floor, there's no question that there's a plan for you.
Yeah,
and I'm not religious really at all. I'm not like going, I'm not going to like throw Jesus on you, whatever. I'm not a religious person, but I can see those, I can connect those dots. At least I can see that part of the story.
We Jesus, man. We Jesus.
Yeah, maybe, I guess, man. Wow, that is dramatic.
The immortality key, bro. Read the immortality key if you listen to audiobooks. Like read the immortality key. You learn a lot more about Christianity.
Incredible. Incredible. Well, now I clearly know the answer to the question, how did you get into the cannabis business? Because everything about your being said, this is where I belong.
Yeah.
This is where I got to be.
So that happened.
Yeah, right. So that happened.
I'm gonna give you the abbreviated version of it, but so that happened.
How long ago was that, Rico? Is that about 5 years ago?
A little over 6 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah.
I took it was like the toughest 48 hours ever. Was like I went for biopsy, was all come back, and
okay.
People died on both sides of my family of cancer, and I just thought it was nice. Biopsy came back negative. I took an unprecedented leave of absence from work, so I never take breaks. And my best friend Greg, he was the best man at my wedding. One of my roommates in college. He was on his second marriage, and we were driving up. We were going to fly up to Oregon for his wedding, and we ended up driving up.
Mm-hmm.
I was alive, and we took a break, in Southern Oregon, we took a break. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning to take a nap before we finished the rest of the trip and wake up to walk our dog. It was just beautiful. Nature all around us.
Yeah.
And I just called up my regional director. I fucking quit, dude. I just quit.
Check you out.
I was a branch manager of a huge financial firm, one of the biggest in the world. 46 million in my branch, 46 billion under management, and black unicorn, man.
Seriously.
Everything I worked for, 10 years in, and Chris got me fucking crying on tears and shit. And I just quit. And I was like, I've been meaning to get in the cannabis industry. One of my good buddies, who's now a real close friend of mine, consider him a brother. He'd been trying to get me in like 3 years prior to, and actually quit 2 jobs before I would have landed this job. And every time I quit, like literally the day of, like hours after I resigned, I would get another offer, like 20% more, 30% more, and a big ass fucking signing bonus. You got to stay on. You got to pay for at least a year to keep that shit. You got to pay them back.
Yeah, right. You don't get it on day one.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck, I'm in for another year. And then like this time, I was like, I'm fucking done, dude. I can't do this. And wow. I told Jasmine, my wife, I'm like, I want to do this cannabis industry thing. Yeah, I think we might be going legal in the next year or so. Josh, that's my homeboy, is getting me in. I was like, he thinks he has something. He has something a little less risky than what he was doing, and he is in with that company, and he wanted to try it out. And if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna do personal training, right? Something I've done in the past. I was actually certified, and I was like a regional CrossFit athlete, like all this other shit. And I was like, I'll do personal training, and I'll be fine. And cannabis thing worked out,
Yeah.
So got in with Baker Technologies. Ended up going public. They can give me penetration in the California market. I was the first person that hired um, outside of Denver. And they were really apprehensive about hiring me. First black person at the company. I wasn't in the industry traditionally. I wasn't in the industry. I was just like a branch manager at a major financial firm that sold weed to my underlings because they couldn't fire me.
You were just a really smart guy with a huge talent set. I mean, you're
right. And 2 fucking degrees from Northwestern. 2 degrees from Northwestern.
Yeah.
10 years of corporate finance. Like, I know how to fucking sell. I built a territory out of nothing in corporate finance. They didn't want to hire me, and they actually hired somebody in tandem with me. That didn't happen in any other fucking territory. And then 2 months in, other dude ended up quitting because he had no traction. I ended up taking over the territory. 42% market penetration, canceled out all of our fucking competitors, and ended up becoming High Times 100 most influential people after being in the cannabis industry for a fucking year, right? And they didn't even right? So I ended up doing that. Cannabis ended up working out. Built a party, an event empire. It's a whole different story, but it was awesome. I was actually doing something I believe in. I was actually helping people. And coming back to the theme of our talk here, I was creating unholy unions between people, celebrities, pro athletes, and investors that wanted to get in the industry. They heard stuff was going on, but their bougie asses aren't going to the trap. They're not going to those sessions. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create a market. I started renting out Airbnb, like penthouses and like mansions and shit like that. And I had everything paid for by these fucking cannabis companies. Nobody's legal at the time, everybody's in the gray area. It paid for by them, and I would be inviting a lot of these investors, all my investor friends, all my pro athletes. Their agents and their security people wouldn't let them go to the fucking trap, or whatever. I'd have high class fucking parties that just so happened to be powered by weed. And then it all like rolled into like at the end of 2018. That's when I was named like High Times 100 most influential.
Right.
I had a table like downtown LA for this whole thing. The table with Vicente Fox, Exhibit, in Belushi.
And you're thinking, come on.
They're like, who the fuck is this dude?
Come on.
Yeah, I was the dude that was fucking stoned his fucking sweatpants at the party that you suits were at last week. That was my shit.
That's amazing. That's fabulous. Yeah, it's perfect. It's a perfect match. Perfect match. It's a perfect match. And it's so fantastic. Honestly, Rico, I got to tell you, it's one of the greatest. I mean, I get to be with you every 3 days a week, and it's one of the best parts of my entire life for the last year that you and I have been working together on State of Cannabis, is to just hear your voice and hear your energy and hear your passion. And, when somebody's got to bring on the heat or bring on the spice, you're there for it, and if someone steps over the line, you push them back, kind of thing. I mean, seriously, you're really you're one of the centers of this thing, and it brings so much joy, I think, and so much information and so much truth, so much real emotion. It's really a place to me. I mean, there's other podcasts, there's other sites, there's other rooms, there's all stuff. There's the business coverage, there's the growers coverage, about how we're going to grow the plants taller or indoor, outdoor. There's all sorts of specialties. And I think what we're doing, and really led by you, I think in a lot of ways, is bringing the humanity together of all of it, the humanity of all of it, and putting it all together in the most humane way. I so appreciate you for everything you do. I really do.
Likewise, man. And you're the GOAT, man. I need to. Maybe we can work together. You help me work on my delivery. I'm getting better. I work on my consistency in delivery. You're the fucking go with that stuff, man. And I really
thank you. Thank you. That's great of you to say. I think honestly, in fact, so I was on Wednesday, and I meant to say something. I got caught up enmeshed in this other conversation, but I really meant to say something on Wednesday when I heard you. That was the best story I'd ever heard you. I mean, it was clear that you wrote it out. It was clear that there was no other voices in the room like Zora, for example, but you had the time, and the story was structured great. It was so perfect, and it was screaming. And like at the end, you're like, nobody. And I think everyone is just sort of hair blown back. Nobody knew what to say because it was so powerful, man. It came across so hard. It was amazing.
Trying to make a black man blush.
You got it, man. I'm telling you, you could do this thing, I think.
I study you, man. That's me being real. Like I try to deliver. I try to or work with my my pauses. I try to put them in the right place. I try to make sure that my personality shines through it as well. So I'm true to myself. But the biggest thing is I'm just hungry for critique. I guess that's the athlete in me.
Yeah.
I crave critique. I want people to tear me the fuck apart all the time, and I don't take it personal. I'm not thin skinned like a lot of people, like a lot of other people are, and I just believe, I hate fucking cliches, but it's iron sharpens iron, right? If I'm doing something awesome, cool. Tell me that one time. I want you to tell me 3 things that I'm not doing well, so I can get better, so our whole team can get better. And I really think that is the beauty of what we do on State of Cannabis News Hour, is because we are so different. We're from so different points of view, walks of life, and we are really we're really like a mirror image of what the cannabis industry is. You have hard right, hard left. You have moderates on both sides. You have the hardcore spiritual people. You have the hardcore medical people. You have people like me, the anarchists. They burn the whole thing down, and we check each other. I love that.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, and we got and gender and age.
It injects fearlessness in our rhetoric. I'm not afraid to say things that might be wrong. I try to do as much research as possible before I do these stories, and I do write. I dismantle everything that I read, and I try to take from multiple sources and then put my own opinion in on them. But that being said, I go into these things fearless, but I'm not afraid if Nicole West and her fucking endless knowledge and encyclopedial brain checks me actually this is what's going on. Or Jason Beck, his bullshit, but he does have a lot of knowledge from the industry.
He's very deep.
He can tell me something that I didn't know, or Dr. Felicia can come in and tell me some medical shit, or Laura or Brandon or any of our lawyers on stage can tell me no, this is actually how it happens. So I'm fearless stepping into these stories, knowing I can just be myself, and somebody on my team is going to say, "Actually, Rico, you're fucking wrong." And I can just step back oh, I didn't know that because I'm not Jason Beck.
No, I'm not Jason.
I didn't know that. Please tell me more, because I'm so hungry. I'm so thirsty to learn. And
that's right.
The beauty of being a human is the fact that we're not going to be around long enough to learn everything. So the things that we are passionate about, we should learn more about those. We should learn to be more versed and more accurate about the things we're passionate about, and accept critique, accept correction,
right.
The fact that science evolves.
Right. It doesn't know everything yet.
Today's prices ain't tomorrow's prices.
Seriously.
Today's information, mask mandates.
Right. Yeah.
Information, and just humble ourselves and be accepting of the fact that we might be wrong every now and again, and it's okay. I think that's what makes our team powerful. That's why I love you so much, brother. And we have a new person that we need to change that immediately. But I'm proud of what we have built, our scrappy band of
no doubt
of amateur purveyors of information and knowledge.
Sure.
I'm so proud of what we've built. I think we can go a lot further with it, and I think the magic sauce, a magic formula potion behind it, is the fact that we are so different, and we are a mirror image of America, and the cannabis.
That's exactly right.
The cannabis industry itself is a microcosm of the greater United States. Whether you like it or not.
Amen.
Don't lie.
I think you were so right. That is the most perfect statement about it. I really believe you. I completely agree with you. It is exactly a microcosm. Just this small group is a microcosm of exactly all the potentially good things that America has. And humanity has. I really believe this. It's why I'm in it. I know it's why you're in it. What?
And what we can be.
And what we can be, exactly what we can be if we behave like we do there, which is we talk with each other, we share with each other, we create safe space for each other, we learn together, and everybody rises and the whole thing rises.
Exactly. And I try to be a realist about everything. And behind the scenes, like I'm a hardcore data nerd. You're like, oh, you're a cool dude, blah, 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 blah. I'm a fucking geek, dude.
You're a geek. You're a geek. Come on, tell the truth. You're a geek.
I'm a hermit. I'm a geek, especially after these last 2 years. It's like being at home, like with the baby and the wife. Like I'm always in my office. I'm just like learning and learning and learning. And it's because I like to debate. I love to debate, and I love to straight up argue with people. But
yeah,
I love being right about things. And when I'm wrong, I'm like, oh shit, I need to do more research, learn more. Yeah. Learn more about this. And I think that's the small piece, that's the American hubris that we need to do away with immediately in this cannabis industry. We need to get rid of that, like, oh, I did this on my own. Like, no, you did that.
No, you didn't.
You did it in an echo chamber while reaping the benefits of somebody else's labor. That's what you did. And this plant has been here millions of years before us, and it'll be here millions of years after us, whether we like it or not. And if we don't get it right, there's gonna be hell to pay, like straight up, man. And I'm gonna do everything that I can to continue bridging those gaps between communities, whether it's through CaniVision, whether it's through State of Cannabis News Hour, whether it's through like the community work that I do. I'm gonna keep on beating that drum and letting everybody know, like, check your emotions at the door. This is capitalism. We recognize it for what it is. We did not deschedule. We did not decriminalize. We chose to legalize. Legalization brought in capitalism. And we need to recognize that capitalism is already a screwed up system that takes advantage of the disenfranchised communities. We need to recognize that, mark that down, continue to beat that drum, but we have to play by capitalism's rules. Folks that look like me, you can't show up to the football game with basketball shorts on.
That's it.
And if you want to get on the negotiating table with somebody who does not look like you with millions, possibly billions of dollars, you need to make sure you have somebody that speaks their language or learn to speak their language, or you're going to get your ass handed to you. They're going to take your knees out. And that's the realist side of me. I do believe that we can come together and we can forge a path forward together, but Joe Biden is not doing us any favors right now by not talking about cannabis. You have Cory Booker and Chuck Schumer, they're pretty much the only ones championing it from a top-down point of view. Republicans end up winning all the midterms. Republicans end up all this thing is going to be legalized under Republican rule. And the realist in me is telling people straight up, you need to understand how they do business and adjust accordingly, or you're going to have a lot of tears and blood in the streets over the next couple of years, and you're just going to be mad again that you got pushed out of something that you built.
Hey, thanks for joining us today in the American Cannabis Report. I want to thank Jimmy Young and all the great people over at Pro Cannabis Media. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe on all the platforms. I want to also thank Rico Lamitte, my guest today. He's the founder of Canavision, a growing legend in the industry here in California and hopefully nationwide. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.